So this is going to be good, Jordan, as we've got 9 laps. They roll out of Fostron corner.
Here they will come for race number 2 for the Lauda Classic cars and Caltron Fine cars. And it will be up to Michael Hitchcock once again to lead them away when the lights go off. And the lights will go on, the noise will begin, and the lights go out, and they go down towards the block point, turn number 1. Let's see who gets the whole shot, and as expected on that pole position and on that racing line, it is Michael Hitchcock that jumps to the lead, but Eric van der Merwe in a better position than he was before, this time in front of Jared Evans. But Jared Evans has just made it around the outside as the rest of the field goes through, as do the fine cars. And I just happened to pick up at the back of the field that Marius Ferdi and Sandra Becker in the fine cars, they literally were next to each other when there the two of them are. That is the Jetta 1 and the Beamer. They were side by side out of turn 1. Block coin. However, we go back to the overall leaders working their way through Lundstem Kink and into Damstip. And it's been led there by Michael Hitchcock from Jared Evans, from Eric van der Merwe and Bruce Evan Taplin. Yep, so they'll run through quite a bit of smoke coming out of that Datsun of Jermaine Bedeen. He had an even bigger moment in race number 1 where there was a lot of smoke coming out of that car, but it seems that they just patched that car back together, or it's just rubbing on a fender, or whatever the case may be. So hopefully that's not something that would be terminalized. There goes Roy Obery on the inside of Bruce Evan Taplin, almost on the inside of the other Porsche, that being the 944 of Eric van der Merwe compared to the 924, the GTP of Roy Obery. Putty van Sale up the picture already and using that V8 muscle to
then we've got Trevor Hutchings, Rob Rowe, Ferdi Maton coming through. There's that's Bradley Rowe. That's picked up some problems already. And then the second group of the cars has been led there by Derek Wilsnach. And I happen to just see there as well, coming into shot now, the fine car of Sandra Becker.
I see Calvin Bierkmans pulled into the pits just as I looked over my shoulder, but Sandra Becker still leading out. Wilsnach's there in that second spot ahead of Marius Ferdi. Then it's Jermaine Bedeen that still has that little bit of a smoking issue that hopefully they don't black flag him for. Then it is Daniel Lotter Jr. ahead of Natasha Tischendorf at the back end of the fine cars field.
Back to the overall leaders that are working their way up the Tygerberg Straight and into Saddle Sweep. Here we go through. It's Eric van der Merwe. It is Bruce Evan Taplin. It is Boetie van Sale, Trevor Hutchings, followed there by Ferdi Maton and Rob Rowe as they work their way down that back straight towards Pertamina Fostron, led there by that man, Michael Hitchcock.
And Hitchcock pulling away at this moment in time. Ahead there of, as you can see, Jared Evans. No Brian Evans out today. No Lane Hutchings. There's a lot of names that have not made it out today to race with us in these adverse mixed weather conditions. But there we see coming through, there is Trevor Hutchings, Ferdi Maton, Overy as well. So they all chopping and changing. Look at that. Sale is fighting for 3rd overall. Go on, Boetie. He's right up there with Eric van der Merwe. If
my facts are right, and I do speak under correction, I think that man, Boetie van Sal, comes all the way up the west coast from Vredendal area to come and race here in Cape Town. So he hasn't been racing for long, you're quite right. So we're going to have a look. Here comes Sandra Becker, locking up there by Sandra with Marius Ferdi. Then it is Jermaine Bedeen, Derek Wilsnach, Derek in the Angler, Jermaine in the Datsun GX as they exit turn number 1, block point corner. So these are some, well, that's the 2 fine car leaders that you see going through your shot here. There's the Ford and the Datsun of Wilsnach and Bedeen, followed there by Lotter Jr. And then the other fine car of Natasha Tischendorf.
Michael Hitchcock's just been passed by Jared Evans going into Pertamina Fostron. That was an all of a sudden change that we just saw as the camera swapped over. But now, from such a dominant lead for Michael Hitchcock, what has happened that he's dropped off the pace? Has he just let up ever so slightly? So now he has to play cat and mouse and he drags right past him, going down into block point once again.
And Boetie van Zyl has got his nose ahead there of Eric van der Merwe, followed there by Bruce Van Taplin. Then it's Ferdi Baton. And side by side, Rob Rowan on his inside is Trevor Hutchings. Right behind them is Roy Obery, as this group of cars work their way into turn number 1, into block coin. A bit of a lock-up there by Trevor Hutchings, and almost contact between Trevor and Rob. Rob going very wide, which means that Roy Obery might fancy his chances as well.
Yep, it's like the good old Group N days, as I said before, as Roy Obery does fancy his chance, and he fancies a very brave one, diving up the inside of Robert Roy. He pushes Robert Roy wide. I don't think there was contact, but I did see a little bit of a lock-up from the Porsche driver as they now exit Castrol. There's Evan Taplin, there's Eric van der Merwe, there's Ferdi Baton as they run. So they're in their own group with their trio of 3. There's another trio of 3. And then, of course, there is Jared Evans and Michael Hitchcock at the front end of the field as they head down to Pertamina Frostron. They are nose to tail as well.
And once again, the lead has changed, and it's in the hands of Jared Evans. So clearly a game of cat and mouse being played here by Michael Hitchcock. That sits out there in the lead, but he's going to have to get going if he wants to get ahead of that Capri of Evans. Here comes that Ford Fairmont 351 GT of Boetie van Zyl. And right there with him is Eric van der Merwe, Bruce Van Taplin, Ferdi Baton, Roy Obery in there, Rob Rowe, and Trevor Hutchings.
As we look down on the right-hand side of the circuit, Brad Rowe went back into the pits, that is the BMW 2002, came back out from the pits. They obviously pushed that bonnet back down before it flapped up too much, and they sent him back out again.
So back out now, he's in the fight here from Van der Merwe all the way down to Hutchings. He finds himself stuck in that lot, but he is one lap down for sure, but that's where he rejoins.
Now we'll jump back to the front once again. Still Jared Evans holding out ahead of Michael Hitchcock. And this is a Class A versus Class B battle, and so is the fight for 3rd and 4th between Van Zyl and Van der Merwe. But jumping back here, we see as Jared Evans doesn't have the dragon straight line, but also at the same time, Michael Hitchcock doesn't seem to be closing that gap to Evans as they make it towards the final corner.
No, and Jared is the quickest driver out there with a 126.535 by Evans, so he is the fastest man out there. There'll be 4 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line.
There's Boetie van Zyl in that bright orange Fairmont GT with massive PT tires. You almost think it's a classic NASCAR with the way that it looks. An incredible build of the lights ablaze as he heads down now towards the start-finish line to start another lap. There's 4 laps to go for the whole field. There's now a fight between the Porsche and the Toyota. It's Eric van der Merwe and Bruce Van Taplin, and right behind here comes a hard-charging, a fast-charging Ferdi Baton in the Mustang.
Yeah, and we're going to keep an eye on him. Here comes Roy Obery just behind that Mustang. There's the Porsche, the Toyota, and the Ford working their way out of Blockpoint Corner. That's the GT Fairmont. And behind these 3 is Roy Obery, and on the grass there is Rob Rowe, using Killarney and more to try to stay ahead there of the Golf 2 of Trevor Hutchings.
And he's managed to pull away there from Trevor Hutchings. They had a good ding-dong battle in race number 1. They were side by side the entire length of the 9 laps that they did until the very end. But this time it just seems Robert Rose picked up a little bit extra pace, or possibly Trevor Hutchings has just slowed down ever so slightly. As Hitchcock now we see Jared Evans jumps to the back end of the fine cars class as he goes up the inside there of the competition door. So that will be the first lapping, as now Michael Hitchcock gains some straight line speed. He's in the slipstream, and there, Frankie, is your fine cars leader.
Yeah, we've got to pick up on this lady. That is Sandra Becker sitting out there, P1 in the fine cars with Marius Fourie. That is second. That's your 2 fine car leaders, P1 and 2, working their way out of Damps, and they are having a lovely fight out there. Well, not that much, but they are first and second. Here comes Eric van der Merwe. Behind him is Ferdi Baton, followed there by Bruce Van Taplin. So he's lost a spot there to the Ford. There is Roy Obery working his way out of Blockpoint Corner. as they work their way towards us. These 4 cars heading into Castrol. Just behind them, you saw the boxy BMW. He should come into view now. There he comes. That is the Classic Car chairman, and that is Rob Rowe.
And now, as we see, watch them go down through Dam's Dip, through the bank right-hander, and we jump back to the leaders who are going through the second banked right-hander around the circuit. The tighter, slower, but a faster entry. Turn number 5, Pertamina Frostron, that rounds out the circuit as they catch up to the back end of Jermaine Bedeen in the Datsun. They'll make their way by very swiftly, but still, it's like Michael Hitchcock can't quite reel in that Capri of Jared Evans as they go hard into the braking zone of turn number 1, Blockcoin.
Well, they're both starting their second last lap, so it's going to be now or never for Michael if he wants to try and get through there. Here comes Boetie van Zyl, and he's just gone past the Anglia. But this is the fight that I want to watch. There is Eric van der Merwe, Ferdi Maton, Bruce Evan Taplin, and Roy Obery right there on the case of the Toyota as they exit Blockcoin.
And also I see right in the background, I said that Calvin Beekman had exited this race and gone into the pits, but now he's back out once again. So Calvin Beekman joins this race again. Obviously he just wants to finish. There you'll sit at the back end of the field, but he gets passed there by Robert Rowe, as Robert Rowe is also dropping off that little group of drivers in front of him, the likes of Ferdi Mouton and Eric van der Merwe.
Right, one more lap to go. There is one more lap and a little bit before we see the checkered flag through the 5A kink. They come now, and here we go. One more lap. It's now or never for Hitchcock. He's the quickest man out there, 125.280. Has he got his nose up front? No, he hasn't. It is still Jared Evans that leads out of Blockcoin corner.
Yep, it'll be possibly a drag race. We always love a drag race to the line out of the final corner, but right now, lights ablaze there for the Mustang of Michael Hitchcock. Maybe just as we always say, a bit of a distraction tactic as this light slowly starts to dip into the late afternoon. There's a battle there in the midfield. As there we see Boetie van Zyl, a third place man, get by Jermaine Bedeen in the Datsun as well. He'll just be running in that third spot all on his own. Then, as you're pointing, there's the likes of Van der Merwe, there's Mouton, there's Obery and Bruce Evan Taplin.
Yeah, as they come down towards us, it's Bruce Evan Taplin, followed there by Roy Obery. The two of them heading down towards us. Then we've got a back marker. Then the next car on the lead lap will be that boxy BMW of Robert Rowe that sits in P8. Natasha Tischendorf coming around. But this is the last lap, and the leaders are working their way into Frostron. Is that Marius Ferdi just keeping right out the way?
I don't know if that's going to leave enough room, and I don't think it'll be enough room. It would be V8 versus V6, but not this time around, as Jared Evans will run it to the line. Very close, will be less than a car length. Jared Evans wins out. A Class B car finishes ahead of the Class A Mustang of Michael Hitchcock. Now we wait for this bright orange Fairmont GT, all the way from Vredendal, coming down.
Vredendal, I think it is, yeah.
Vredendal.
And that is Boetie van Zyl. Vredendal is around the corner. Vredendal is very far away up the west coast. It's actually classified as Northern Cape as he comes to the line. And here we go. That's going to be Rob Rowe. And right behind him is Ferdi Maton, followed there by Roy Obery. And right there with him is Bruce Evan Taplin, followed by Rob Rowe.
Yep, the boxy BM all on his own. He'll bring it home at 8th overall. Then the next place man, the 9 spot, goes to the 71 of Trevor Hutchings in the Golf. Ahead there of Sandra Becker. And we're just waiting for Sandra, who's about to round the final corner. And again, 2 in a row, 10th place overall and first in fine cars. She just